All right, welcome in the first edition of the Catamount Chronicles. It is my UVM-centered podcast. It's brought to you by the Strike Zone Academy in Essex Junction. All your baseball skills can be acquired and developed there. So go give them a like on Facebook as well. And by Sobu Stretch, a boutique yoga studio off Shelburne Road in South Burlington. We'll tell you more about them as we go. But we couldn't have episode 1 of a UVM podcast without the godfather of UVM basketball. It is Coach Tom Brennan. Coach, how are you?
I am doing wonderful, Brady, but I got to say, I think it's great of you to have a basketball coach on your first podcast, but you might have got the wrong one.
Well, we got plenty of time to get Coach Becker on. We got plenty of time to get Todd Woodcroft, the new hockey coach, on. So we went to you first as the godfather of UVM hoops. 310 career wins at UVM, 3 straight NCAA tournaments at the end. When someone says that you're the godfather of UVM basketball, what does that mean to you?
Well, it means that we got it done. I think that's the biggest thing. I was here a long time, and we struggled, and we got incrementally better, and then all of a sudden we just had that motherload of players that came all at the same time, and we were just so good. I mean, we had 2 guys that scored 2,300 points apiece on the same team. Yeah. I mean, it was just crazy, and I was thrilled, and in your background, you can appreciate this. We did this all the while we were doing a drive time radio show, morning drive. So I look back on it, and I'm very flattered. I'm very flattered, and I'm very grateful. And I think the biggest thing I'm grateful for, Brady, is that I was here through a period where changing coaches wasn't in vogue. You know what I mean? Like the biggest thing you can say about me is that they were patient with me. There's no doubt about it. But that being said, they never gave me anything to get better. You know what I mean? It's never like they brought me in and said, "Oh, listen, we love you. We know you're the right guy. Now, what do we got to do to make this program better?" And they just didn't do it. And we got lucky. And again, you measure that against fired, and you say, hey, my goal was to be the coach next year. That's all. Everything else was superfluous. Right? But they were very patient with me, and then we got good, and it just was like those kids were like the Beatles. It just took off, and then we had the radio every morning to talk about it and promote it. I mean, you talk about having your own brand. I mean, it was amazing. And then Feinstein would come on, and Bob Ryan would come on, and it was nuts. The whole thing was nuts, and I should have. It's a good thing I didn't take it very seriously, because I've been scared to death of it, had I.
The best story I ever heard about you was Doug Gottlieb said that when he was at ESPN and when you were at ESPN, he asked you, "Why did you never leave Vermont?" And your reaction was, "My boy, there's 50 states in the union, and I own one of them." Is that a true story?
I was a little smug. I was being a little smug. But I had to try to put Gottlieb in his place. That was part of my assignment there too. But yes, and honest to God, Brady, I mean, then again, I'm a little bit of a whack job, that. But like I felt so committed to this place, and because so many people took care of me for so long before we got good. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if you go to a place and you have expectations and you're good all the time, and like we are now. Yeah. And you have and certain things come your way. They just come your way. People are willing to help you. You make that call and a guy answers the phone. That type of stuff. But when you're building it and it's taking some time, I can't say enough how many people were so nice to me and would say to me, "You're the right guy. Don't worry about it. We're going to get this thing going. You just hang in there." And I will never, ever forget that. And that was, to me, that was a really, really big thing.
When you talk about lack of resources, we're talking about a different time where programs didn't have just endless amounts of money. And UVM now doesn't have endless amounts of money, but they have more than they did in the 80s and 90s when you were trying to get the team good. What kind of resources would you have wanted? What would have accelerated the getting good process?
Well, doing things with the gym very, very first. I mean, we could have started doing that in '86 and nobody would have minded, But the fact is, I know there's a pecking order to things, but I just thought, and then what I did, Bray, was I kind of played on the charm, like Fenway. or the old garden, that's what, and especially when we got good. I'm saying, and it was true. Nobody wanted to come here. Nobody wanted to come here and play. Nobody in the league for sure, And so, it was cold and snowing and, way far away from everything. And so I just used to play on that. But in my heart and in my meetings with athletic directors, I would say, come on, man, we need to do something here. Especially when we got it going, and honestly, I never thought that it would turn out to be what it has turned out to be. I knew we really had a chance to be good with those kids. I did know that, but not what we did. I was really, blown away.
I'm very interested in the dynamics inside an athletics department, because where I went to college at Oswego was just Division III, but hockey was so far and away above everything else that I grew resentful of the hockey program because they got things that the rest of the athletic program never got. And I played baseball and I wanted it. Back then, when you're going through the process, did you get a sense that hockey was valued much more than basketball, and did that bother you?
Without a doubt. And it didn't bother me. And I tell you why, Brady, this is an interesting story in and of itself. Because Mike Gilligan, who was really the main reason that I came here. Now, I was at Yale, and, we were about 500, but I had Dudley coming back. I had Johnny Rice coming back. I had a good team coming back at Yale, but I just couldn't. Frank Ryan was my AD. Now, you're just a puppy, but he was the last great Cleveland winner before LeBron. He was the quarterback for the Browns when they won it, and he was a brilliant guy and a mathematician, and he was my AD, and we clashed a lot, and I was young, and a lot of it was I was every bit as much to blame as he was. But so Gilligan said, you know what, they're starting over up here, and they don't have much going on, but you got some scholarships. And so I thought, well, I'd rather be where I'm wanted than where I'm not wanted. And then, funny story, I went back to Ryan when they offered me the job, and I was very willing to stay. We just ironed some things out, and turns out I didn't have as much leverage as I thought I did. I said, I've been offered the Vermont job. He said, I think you should take it.
I know how that goes, my friend.
Driving up the road, Brady, honest to God, I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do now? I don't want the Vermont job. So anyway, and you know what? You want to make God smile, tell him your plans. I mean, who knew that? Like it went from. I thought it was really interesting. One time this year, they said Becker won his 200th game, right? Yep. And so that makes him 288. Okay. Well, when I was here, I was 22 and 88. But again, that was back in the day where you didn't automatically get fired after one cycle, if things just, and especially here. And we're talking about hockey, and like I said, Gilligan he was the best. We would go on these little alumni things around the state, and honest to God, he would get up and say, you know what, we're fine. We got everything we need, which he didn't have, which was not even close to the truth. We got everything we need. We got to help Brennan out. I'm thinking we play in the same. Now we're boys. We've been boys at Yale, and all right, but we play in the same season, right? We're in we're in the same fan base, and and I thought for this guy to do that, it's just unbelievable. And then there was, I think it might have been and then I told him about this, and I said, listen, where do I need to go on Church Street? Where do you go? And he said, you know what, my boy, I hate to tell you this, but you're not going to be good enough to go to Church Street. You got to go to Winooski. And honest to God, Brady, I went to Winooski and met some of the greatest people that I ever met in my life. It was really funny. But I remember coming home one night from Maine. I had to be Maine because that's the longest trip. I'm back then. They were bussing in. And, it was, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning when we got home. And there were people actually in the lobby waiting to get hockey tickets, Yeah. And at that time, there was a there was a waiting list for season tickets,
Yeah.
So, and I just took that as, well, look, man, this is a hockey town. There ain't no doubt about that. But people love basketball. There's enough people that love basketball that if we get this thing going, we can get 3,000 people a night. I don't doubt that for a minute. Now, it's just whether I was going to be the guy to drive that train. So, but I do remember that very vividly, thinking, look at that, man. These people are waiting all night. And then the first championship game, I was on the radio. I remember that we did the radio show live from Patrick, and there were people, just there were a couple hundred people in the lobby and lined up outside, and it was cold. And you knew the thing was, it was so sad because there were people down the street, and I'm thinking, dear God, I feel awful about this, but there was only going to be 600 that were going to get in, or 300, whatever the number was. That all the other tickets were accounted for. Many to the damn politicians. That we're going to be seeing their cats for the first time.
Yeah.
How that works. But I knew in my heart that, these, like that guy's been waiting there. He's been waiting there for hours, and he don't have a shot to get in. He's not getting in. It just tore me up. And I thought, this is like, well, yeah, it's a tough problem, but it's, if you're gonna have problems, you'd rather have this than the other way. So yeah, and I think the nicest thing for me, Brady, was that the whole thing just turned into a charming deal. I mean, we were pretty, and we scored all the time. We were really good on defense. People love Catamount. Catamount was like John Wayne, and Sarntine was the little gunslinger. We just had perfect pieces. Perfect. It was amazing. And for me, just to be a part of that, it was really, really neat.
I want to talk to you about Taylor Coppenrath because he's from Vermont, obviously a small town in Vermont, and East Barnet, I think it is. So I wanted to ask you about recruiting local players. UVM has Ben Shungu now, and there's talks, some kids in the area that UVM is in on. I heard Will Brown, your rival at Albany, once say, or maybe it wasn't Will Brown, it was somebody though, who said they didn't like recruiting local players unless they were going to play all the time because the crowd and the fans really get on you if you're not playing the local kid. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Well, not entirely. I can see, it's one of the fingers on the hand, but you just the idea is I never felt for I don't know for how many years we never lost a guy to, and I'm saying like we never lost a guy. There were no Division I players that didn't play for me and went somewhere else.
Yeah,
we had the Tanners, we had Billy Bright, we had guys, and I always thought it was important. But never to the point of taking a guy just because he was from Vermont. We never gave that an issue. We had to worry about getting better first, and then we could worry about, is this guy good enough to play for us? Is the kid that went to New Hampshire good? There were 4 or 5 guys, and then so we get to the point where, and then right after I left, then Mike had a couple guys too, and then Benny came, and so I do think if you can have local players, I think it's a good thing. Parents are tough now. There's no doubt about that. Even at the collegiate level, which I never thought could happen, but it does. But I think if you have, like Benny Shungu is like as great a story as we've ever had in Vermont basketball. He really is. And it just, there's all those kids and all good students and worked hard, and he comes out and comes in as a walk-on and just makes himself into a player and then keeps getting better and better. And I like to think that I don't want to be too self-gratifying here, but I one of the reasons I was always proud of our program is that we did get better. We never, 1 year maybe we kind of caved in and, we just didn't have it at the end, and we were, we got beat easy. But most of the time, even when we weren't good, we were very tough and we played hard, and we, it was good. So I knew that if we got the right group in here, the right combination, there was no doubt in my mind that we could be good, and it turned out to be the case.
Well, you're going to see it flashing up on the bottom. The Catamount Chronicles brought to you by the Strike Zone Academy in Essex Junction. It's a baseball facility, again, in Essex Junction. Just less than 1 year old. It just opened. It's awesome in there. State-of-the-art from the tech analytics, the facility. You can rent it out. You can bring your buddies there. Batting cages, lessons, all of the above. You get a free evaluation of your baseball skills there by mentioning this podcast. Heck, I can be the guy that gives you that free evaluation. So come on.
Oh, I thought you were going to be saying, I'm the guy that can give you the free tickets and get in.
Well, I'm the guy that can give the free evaluation to anybody who's listening to this. Just mentioned this podcast. We're talking with Coach Brennan. So again, Strike Zone Baseball Academy in Essex Junction. Coach, you go to 3 straight NCAA tournaments at the end of your career, 2003 to 2005. When did you know that you were done? Did you decide at the end of that year that you were done? Did you know going into that year that you were done? How did the end come about for you?
No, I knew at the beginning of the year that I was done, and talking
Was
over
that
with.
public? Was that public and out
Oh yeah,
there?
actually,
Okay.
I announced in November
Okay.
of their senior year, like I say, of our senior year.
Yeah.
I announced in November, and so it was, it was what it was. We knew it was an interesting kind of pressure, Braid, because we really knew in our hearts that we were the best team, but we knew we weren't the best team by a lot.
Yeah.
There were other good teams in that league. So, but we had won it twice in a row with pretty much the same core. And so the expectation was that we were going to do it again. And certainly was my expectation. I never thought of anything else other than that. And I know Copperhead and Sorrentine, he'd pout for 2 days when he lost the game. He'd be such a baby. But and we were, but when you look back on it, you just say, you know what? Thank goodness we were busy and we were going through it, and I had the radio, because if I'd ever stopped and thought about what we were trying to pull off here in 3 in a row and how hard that was, and just the pressure of winning all the time, and I remember that we needed to beat Baltimore to clinch. I remember that, and it was at home, and it was senior night, and geez, the guys are crying. I cry. I cried senior night. Now I haven't coached here in 15 years, but when it was my guys, you can imagine, man. I was a mess, and not that it had anything to do with anything, but that was a very special group, obviously, and everybody was crying, and and I'm thinking, we got to play here. We could have done this after the game, and it was nip and tuck the whole way, and I'll never forget. TJ got hurt, and.
Wow.
So he got a Charlie horse late in the game, and he couldn't play. And I thought, because had we not won then we would have had to go to Maine and win. And now it looked like TJ couldn't even play the next game because he was hurt, So, and Kyle Saplicki, God love him, he came in, and he hadn't played much. He was, he was our guy. He was in our rotation, but he played great, and he ended up basically winning the game for us. It was really a wonderful story, and that took all the pressure off when we went to Maine, So yeah, we were good, but it wasn't there were no gimmies.
Did you step aside, or know that you were stepping aside because you wanted your last team to be the Catamount team, because you didn't think the team was going to be as good the next year? I mean, you were just out of energy from it. What led to the decision?
I think a little bit was out of energy, but obviously, I'm not the type of guy who was worried whether the team was going to be good or not next year. I was here for 15 years when we weren't that good. So that was not a concern of mine. I figured I'd get that figured out. But I just kind of knew, when and I am older, I was only 55 then.
Yeah.
And I just thought, how many people get to do this? How many people get to go out with kids that kind of brought them, just took me and brought me right along with them? It wasn't like I took them. They took me. And I thought, I love these kids. I've been really close with them. I have a great rapport with them. They're a senior dominated group, so you don't have a lot of the nonsense that you have to deal with other times. What's my role, and where do you see me? All that nonsense. And so it was great, and it was a great. And matter of fact, there's a cute story. We were in Baltimore, speaking of, and we were in the airport waiting to come home, and Haynes said, or Bruce Bosley says, he says, "Hey, TB, the commissioner quit. Do you want to be commissioner?" Now, I'd already announced that this is my last year. He said, "Do you want to be commissioner?" And I said, "No, I don't want to be commissioner. I worked too hard to be commissioner." And Haynes had a paper, and he just put it down. He went, "Work too hard?" Put the paper back up. Hey, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Oh man. I'm going to talk to Mike Trimboli, who's going to be my next guest on this. He's going to come out on Friday. You never got a chance to coach him because he came in the year after you left. What was it like recruiting players when you knew that you were going to be stepping aside? Like when you knew you weren't going to be there, how hard was the recruiting process getting guys still?
It was terrible. It was awful. And I just kept, Brady, trying to say, we're recruiting to the program. That's all. And I remember... I don't even believe I'm telling you this story, but we went to Joe somebody from Albany was a good player. He ended up having us and somebody else as his last choices. And so Now what happens is I have kidney stones, so I'm really struggling, and we're supposed to go into his home. So I said to my assistant, I said, I can't go. I can't go. And he says, you got to go. You got to go. If you don't go, the head coach is not there. And he said, you got to explain to him the situation. I said, oh, man. All right. So I'm driving down to Albany, and my sister went with me. She said, I'm not going to let you go down there by yourself. I don't know what could happen. You have to go to the hospital or whatever. So we go in it. We go into the circular driveway, Brady. It is spectacular. Columns on the houses. Wow. Joe something. I forget his name. So anyway, we walk in the house, and I'm starting to give my pitch. And all of a sudden, I had taken these pills that were supposed to eliminate the pain, and they did. But the side effect was you may lose control of your bladder, right?
Oh, so wow.
Now I'm sitting on this the couch got to be $5,000, right? And I'm trying to tell my story about our economics department. And all of a sudden, like, boom, I just wet myself. It was like,
oh my God.
You have done a lot of beautiful things in your day, TB, but this goes right to the top of the list. So I get up, say, excuse me, I had an accident here. I have to go to the bathroom. I go into the bathroom. I look in the mirror. I'll never forget it. I say, yo, God, you didn't get to the office today, huh? How can you do this to me?
Well, I'm going to guess, since you can't remember his name, Joe somebody didn't come to UVM after this incident.
No, he went to Columbia. But anyway.
Oh, no. Wait.
You would know him.
There was an Alex Zampier who went to Columbia from Albany, but he was like 07, so you would have been out by then. So I can't think. Oh, Joe Bova?
Bova. Yeah, Joe Bova. Yeah.
Okay, Joe. I played pickup ball with Joe Bova.
Yeah. Ask him about that story next time you see him.
I will. I'm going. Trust me. So, like before I moved here, I was playing pickup ball with Joe Bova.
Oh God, it was so embarrassing. They were good about it, man. They were really good about it. And we were walking out, and the guy said, "Are you going to be the coach there next year?" I said, "I don't know. I'll be there. I will say that. I'm not going anywhere else. I may, if I don't coach, you know." And I kind of knew I wasn't going to coach, but if a lot of people would have said, "We want you to stay," maybe I would have. I don't think so. Not at that time. I don't think so. So anyway, that was and after that, I thought to myself, well, you've just lost all your qualifications as a recruiter. You can't go in anybody's house anymore because you pee all over their furniture. Oh my God! So anyway, I'd like to see that kid myself now that you think about it. But he never played at Columbia, or he might have played, but he didn't play.
Yeah. He was there, but I don't know how much time he really got. But he was there. I think he might have had some injuries too. So,
so that was the thing. And Mike, Mike. We loved Mike. I mean, and what we did was always, and now of course we were having a new coach, and it wasn't my assistant, so. Everything was going to change, obviously. But what we always did was we only had, like in my 19 years, I had 4 point guards, basically.
Yeah.
And as I tell people, I had more presidents than I had point guards for that. So, you never know. That's never a good sign. But yeah, and we loved them. And I just was afraid when everything went. Like I left and the other guy didn't get it. And then, I didn't know whether Mike would hang on or not. And I certainly wouldn't blame him had he didn't. But obviously he had a wonderful career. He was great, and they were good most of the time, right? Well, his first year they were great, but after that they had 3 shots at it in a row, I think. So he's just that he was a good guy to keep the point guard reign going.
Well, I'm looking forward to talking to him on Friday's podcast. The podcast Catamount Chronicles, brought to you, see it on the bottom of the screen, by Sobu Stretch, which is a yoga studio off Shelburne Road in South Burlington. You can use the promo code Brady5 for $5 off your first class. So Brady5, $5 off your first class. They have small classes, 3 to 5 people. Everything's safe, socially distanced, very clean. CDC guidelines all being followed. In-person options, virtual options. Scott and Erica, two of my great listeners who run the studio, they are all in on building up their studio and building up this podcast with me, and I appreciate them. So Brady5 for your promo code to get $5 off your first class.
Let me ask you something now. You're the king. You're the guru.
Okay.
What's going on? What do you think? Do you think the SEC will play? Do you think? I know this is a Vermont podcast, but just
that's okay.
One question. What are your thoughts about the world?
I think that the Power 5 schools have enough money to do the requisite testing. I think they have enough money to do the testing required to play. I just think, and you would know this, I think liability is the biggest issue. Trust and liability. I think that they don't necessarily trust the student athletes to not go put themselves in a big gathering, and they don't want the liability. They know that people are going to get the coronavirus, but I think they don't want somebody to die on their watch. And I think that's what they're incredibly fearful of. I mean, you can tell me about the pressure or the feelings of a higher level administration.
Oh yeah, I'm worried about our administration. I mean, what do we do? What do people in our world do? That aren't flush with money, and I'm really worried about that. We've had to drop sports. I don't know if we're going to have to drop more, but when Stanford drops 11. I mean, my God, that tells you something, and so I just, I don't know where we're going. And I look at a school like St. Mike's, I'm thinking, I'm not picking on St. Mike's, any of those schools. How do they stay going? How do they stay open? How do they have sports teams? I don't know.
What do you think about college hoops this season? Because I could personally see for UVM, I could see a conference-only schedule where you lose they're supposed to play Clemson, they're supposed to play Alabama. I could see them not going to make those long trips. I could see those schools not wanting to pay anymore, the smaller school to come to them. I could see a regionalized conference-only schedule, or maybe you throw in a Boston College or a Syracuse or a Siena, some of those schools that are close by. I mean, how do you even prepare for a season like this, Coach?
I really have no idea, Braid. I just I feel so bad, and I know I'm going to go back a little bit here when it hit and on the 11th or the 12th or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to John and saying, and he was devastated as he should be, And I said, my boy, this is just way bigger. This is way bigger. Now you're the best team without a doubt. No doubt about that. And you're the chance and all that. But when you think about how hard you work for it, how much it takes, how much it costs to win a championship, I don't want to get overly dramatic here, but it's true. It really is true. And all they did to get that far, and that Lamb always played good in big games,
Yeah.
Like he would, man, you say, okay, bring on Purdue or something. He ain't going to back up a minute. And Steph Smith was kind of the same way. And Benny, I thought we really, really had a chance to make some noise in the tournament, and so that was. But at that point, it was all so much bigger and broader, but I didn't give those guys enough love. I mean, what they gave up was really, really heart wrenching. There's no doubt about it, and it doesn't happen. And I hope that we play it all, Brady. I do. I'm not 100% sure we're going to play it all.
I have to ask you, switching gears, I have to ask you about the radio show. You did the Corman the Coach show for a number of years. We were both on the old same frequency.
Man, I sat in your chair.
That's right, at 101.3. How did you get to be a radio star? Did you want to do this? Did you luck into the position? I mean, how did it even come together for you?
Just lucked into it. Your boy, Mike, that I love. I always your third partner. What's his name?
Rich.
Rich, yeah. Rich was in the morning, and he's been around forever. He's been around, and so and Quorum, I don't know. They were down in Virgins at the time.
Yep.
And so they did a guest DJ week. And so they had like the police chief one day, and this guy and this woman, and then me. And so it really went well. And so Corm said, "How would you like to be our sports guy?" So I said, "Yeah, sure," because I wasn't making nickels at Vermont, so any extra income certainly appreciated. And so I called my brother, who turned out to be Dr. Corey on our show, and who's a radio guy in Alabama. And he said, "Well, Tommy, you tell him, you'll be happy to do it, but you're not going to come in there 3 times a day for 2 minutes a day. You got to work something out. I got to give you a machine." So Corm said, "Okay, fine, we'll do that." He said, "How about doing this? Why don't you just come in Monday and Tuesday if you can do that, and we'll try to make it work. We'll see how it goes." And you know what? I was so blessed, man. I never had an argument with that guy, and of course I didn't, because he let me do what the hell I wanted to do. But really, we were really compatible. There was no doubt about it. I think people realized it, and we were really community oriented. We got a lot of stuff done, and we'd call coaches at 6 a.m, and we'd call players. I'd call my players, and it was just, and people were just attracted to it. They loved it. And they loved to be a part of it, and it just really took on a life of its own. And then then we one year we went to New York. We were one of the top 5 small market morning shows in the country, and we lost to somebody from like Paducah, Kentucky. That pissed me off, I'll tell you that. Anyway, it was a great run, and and he, like I said, he was great to me, and no doubt about it. And then what happened? I asked for too much money.
That is not what happened with me. So that is definitely not what happened with me. Hey, how much did that grow the brand of Vermont Hoops? Because I got to imagine you attracted, because it was rock radio. I mean, when you were playing music, wasn't it rock and roll? You probably had a lot of non-sports fans listening that became sports fans just because of you.
I think we did. And I used to say to him, and I wasn't crazy about classic rock, that wasn't my thing, and I kept saying, you want to get people to listen, play Motown, man. That's all you got to do, is play Motown. But everybody will listen. And he would say to me, and he was the brains, he would say, look, as many people listen to the show for the music than listen for us. I said, bullshit. There's no way. There's no way. And he said, yes, way. Yes, there are. That's how it is. So he was probably right. But it did. And then as we were getting good, and people just wanted to be a part of it. I remember we had a fan. We used to eat at the Rusty Scuffer down in the bottom of Church Street, right? So we're in there at 3:00 one day eating a pregame meal, and the guy's looking in the window. It's like how much is that doggy in the window? And he's got like an 8-year-old with him, and he's looking in, got his hand up like this, and so he comes walking in. And if you've ever been there, there's a little hallway you got to go down before you get to the actual seating area, and so I went over to him and I said, how you doing? And he said, good, coach. I said, can I help you? And he said, this is my son, Johnny. And he just loved to watch. He loves to watch Taylor Coppenrath. So we just want to come and watch him eat.
Oh.
I said, come on in. Why don't you eat with him? Come on in and sit down. We can spare a couple more seats here. But with that group, there were stories like that all the time. Or how about the one where a guy calls me and tells me, you're not going to believe this. Taylor Coppenrath, I don't care how many points he scores, he's not a better guy. What happened? He said, well, my son had a school project, and he said he wanted to do it with Taylor Coppenrath. So what happens is he calls Taylor, and he says, can I come over after practice and talk to you at the gym? And Taylor said, sure, no problem. He said, I'll wait for you. So the kid said, okay, I'll be there at 6:00. So the old man says, all right, I'll be home at 5:30. We'll get over there. It'll be no problem. And you can do what you got to do. And so the kid was so excited. And now 3:30 comes around or something, and the old man gets the word that he's got to be in this meeting, and he can't leave, that kind of thing. So to the kid, it's like he died. He could care less. The kid didn't want to hear it. I don't want to know nothing. This is not right. You know how you get when you're in 5th grade, and you promised me this, and I can't believe this, and he's just going off. And the old man said, I felt so bad. He said, and so I finally got out of there about 6:30. He said, I pull into my driveway, walk in my back door. There's Taylor Coppenrath sitting at my dining room table with my son. And what happened was he called him up, and the old man was saying, you got to call him and tell him you can't come. And the kid said, no, I'm not calling him. You got to call him. And the old man said, nope, you need to call him. And so when he called him, Taylor said, well, where do you live? I'll come to your house.
Oh, that's awesome. So that is awesome. Coach Brennan, this has been awesome. We'll hang through the last sponsor read for 1 second. Reminder coming on the bottom of the screen. This Catamount Chronicles episode 1 brought to you by the Strike Zone Academy baseball facility in Essex Junction. You can get a free evaluation of your baseball skills. Heck, you can have it done by me if you want to. Just mention my name, mention the Catamount Chronicles, and you'll get that free evaluation. So Strike Zone Academy, Essex Junction. Also, Sobu Stretch Yoga Studio just off Shelburne Road in South Burlington, up closer towards the entrance to 189. Promo code Brady5 for $5 off your first class. Tell Scott and Erica and the whole crew there that I sent you. You'll get $5 off that first class. In-person, virtual options, staying completely safe, small classes, all levels welcome, beginner or experienced, doesn't matter. I can't even barely touch my kneecap, so I'm going to start doing yoga so that I can do it as well. So Catamount Chronicles episode 2 drops on Friday with Mike Trimboli, former UVM point guard. Coach Brennan, this has been great. We've gotten to talk a million times before. I'm going to leave you with this. I don't think I told this story maybe more than once ever because I just didn't want to make a big deal of it, but it was a big deal to me that about 1 year into my tenure at the radio station, you called, left me a voicemail, told me that you thought I was doing a great job, thought that the show sounded great. I still have that voicemail saved. That meant the world to me that a figure in town as big as you tracked down my number and wanted to tell me he thought I was doing a good job. So I'm sure there are many people with many stories like that, but I wanted you to know that I appreciate that still.
That's very kind. You know what? You're a big timer. You're in a little place right now. That's all. That'll all work itself out. You just keep working hard. You got a lot of talent.
Well, hey, like you said, weren't always winning at the beginning, but when you won at the end, you won big. So I'm looking for the same kind of growth. So, Coach Brennan, thank you so
nice
much.
Of you to mention it.
Thank you so much, Coach, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Brady. Thank you. I'm very flattered to be your first guy. It means a lot to me.